Before we begin this edition of the Bridgewater Review, there is some developing news on the COVID vaccine process and its impacts here in town. First responders received their COVID vaccines at BSU last month, as did seniors in February, which you'll hear about later on in the program. It looks like that'll be all the first dose vaccines distributed here in Bridgewater. The town received a letter from the state's Department of Public Health that says this town, along with many others here in the state, will not be receiving the first dose of the vaccine. Many communities are about to experience this, as their first doses will be sent instead to the MassVax sites. There was a 3-page letter sent from the state, and the part that rips the proverbial Band-Aid off is in the third to last paragraph of the entire letter. It says, quote, "Effective the week of March 1st, the state will no longer provide first dose vaccines for individual municipal clinics except for the 20 disproportionately impacted communities and established and approved regional collaboratives. Municipalities will receive second doses to ensure that all residents have been fully vaccinated by individual local Board of Health clinics." And this news came shortly before Phase 2 is set to expand to include people aged 65 and older and those with 2 or more comorbidities. The VaxFinder website crashed on Thursday, February 18th, as the state was ready to accept requests for those appointments. The first dose vaccinations are now going to be at mass vaccination sites, including the Old Circuit City in Dartmouth, Fenway Park, and Gillette Stadium. And there was a local response on this, first from Town Manager Michael Dutton, who says, quote, "Needless to say, this is extremely disappointing and frustrating for those of us who have been spending inordinate amounts of time planning, practicing, and organizing clinics that will not happen. It is even more frustrating that this notice comes buried in the last paragraph of a form letter without any warning or discussion with municipal leaders. It is most frustrating for the seniors who have signed up on our waiting list with the expectation that the town would hold clinics. Over the next few days, we will be calling more than 1,000 senior residents who have signed up with us to help them find alternative options. Right now, the best, most consistent option appears to be Gillette Stadium. Those who have gone there before have reported good experiences. We will continue to help our residents in any way we can, but we will not be allowed to offer vaccination clinics. For those town employees and brave volunteers who have gone above and beyond in planning for local clinics, I thank you. For those residents who have relied on the prospect of getting vaccinated locally, I share in your disappointment," end quote. And Town Council President Sean George echoed Mr. Dutton's comments, saying that this was beyond unacceptable. He did go on to say, quote, "I would ask residents to reach out to local Representative Senator Mark Pacheco and State Rep Angelo D'Amelia for their support in having the Commonwealth deliver the committed vaccine doses to our community so we can deliver them to our residents as planned." And we will keep you posted on any information that comes out of this developing story on the Bridgewater Now updates. And right now, we go to Bridgewater Review. Welcome to this edition of the Bridgewater Review. I'm John Luck. At the end of last month, the town, the Finance Committee, and the BR School District all met in a joint meeting to begin the process of making the upcoming budget. BR Superintendent Derek Swenson started the process a few months ago, making up a needs-based budget after communicating with the administrators in each of the district's buildings. Mr. Swenson is advocating for an in-house HVAC consultant and added that technology is a cost driver because it moves so quickly. Transportation is another cost driver, but the superintendent added that there is 60 to 70% reimbursement from the state. There are a potential 12 positions that would be added into the budget, 8 for the entire district, 1 at the high school, 2 in Bridgewater, and 1 in Rainham. The pandemic obviously affected many things in town and across the school district, but one of them was enrollment numbers for students in kindergarten and first grade, so a teacher at the middle school was included in the 12 potential new positions requested in the needs-based budget. According to the superintendent, the original stimulus package gave the BR School District $420,000. Now, with the most recent stimulus package coming in, the district should see an increase in funds which will be geared toward technology budgets. Positions hired under the CARES Act, if deemed unnecessary, would not be carried over into the operational budget, which won't be affected by the pandemic. Members of the council thanked the district and the school committee for their work during the pandemic.
I don't think we can say thank you enough for rolling with the punches during this pandemic, and really just bringing to light how dedicated so many people are in regards to making sure at the end of the day we're taking care of our kids. And taking care of our kids is a very large responsibility. And I hope that people that have been kind of paying attention understand that the school system, I will say personally, on top of, giving people an education, serve many different roles that probably a lot of people did not realize until it became a challenge.
Town Manager Michael Dutton shared some bullet points on the town's upcoming budget process. He said that the pandemic impacted how services were provided and had concern about local receipts with stores closing. He did add that the town is positioned to handle dips in the economy and to avoid service cuts. $1.6 million was taken from the town's stabilization fund, and another projected $1.6 million may be used for this upcoming budget. Again, this is all very early in the budget process for both the district and the town. Over the past month during the town council meetings, there was discussion and eventually a vote to put a question on the ballot for the town's annual election coming up on April 24th. The question is a non-binding question regarding the recreational use of marijuana here in town. And this is how the question should read on the ballot. This non-binding question will not change any current zoning or general ordinances, but serves to inform the town council of current public opinion. Will the public support allowing retail sale of recreational marijuana in Bridgewater with a simple yes-no option? During the open forum before the discussion, residents voiced their displeasure that they had to vote on the topic of marijuana once again, with many comments geared towards Councillor Bill Wood.
Councillor Wood falsely stated that there has been a clear shift of public support for adult use of recreational marijuana. That is not true. Studies would show that nothing good comes from selling more drugs, and the negative consequences have been shown in studies. Only the marijuana industry benefits.
The residents have already spoken on this issue that was dragged out for over a year, and they did not want pot shops in this town. And it's concerning that he continues to go to bat for these million-dollar drug companies while the taxpaying residents would have to deal with the ramifications of his actions.
The only reason that this is being presented to us now is to say about having, we're going to get huge tax dollars if we could possibly get it. That's getting old. That reason for having it is getting old. It's not a good enough reason when you need to take everything into consideration. And there's no guarantee that we'll receive that amount in tax revenue that's being presented to us.
Members of the council discussed the question while attempting to make amendments that didn't pass, but a couple of the members did say that's just a survey and nothing would be imminent, but there may be some wait depending on if the question passes or fails. Councillor Dennis Gallagher made comments that were echoed by fellow Councillor Matt Rushton about not receiving any communication from residents about the topic of recreational marijuana sales here in Bridgewater.
I haven't received anything from anybody. And I'm out there in the public. I'm at the stores. I'm at the gym. I'm in the community. No one's asked me that question. But you know what they're asking me? They're asking me, and I'm getting emails, I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting questions on the street about our town roads. I'm getting questions about our park systems. I'm getting questions about vaccine distribution for our seniors in phase 2. And we're all getting questions and comments about making sure the school district funds a diversity, equity, inclusion position at the high school. Those are the questions that I'm hearing out there in public, not about where's the pot shop in Bridgewater.
The motion to put the question on the ballot did pass 5-4, but Councillor Wood reminded residents that nothing changes with the vote, and this is simply just a survey being taken among the residents.
Earlier, it was said in comments that the town voted in 2016 not to have pot shops in town, but that mischaracterizes the vote in 2016. It wasn't a vote about shops in Bridgewater at all. It was a general vote, and recreational legalization has happened. Your neighbors can grow pot in their backyard, and you can sit on your patio and watch the sunset while enjoying the recreational marijuana. That doesn't change. Also, that doesn't change is access for teenagers. It never was legal for teenagers to have it. It's not legal, I don't believe, for any BSU residents to have it on campus. You can't smoke it on the common. None of that changes. We're asking a question just to survey.
There was a vote that took place in 2016 asking about legalizing recreational use marijuana. Residents here in Bridgewater voted, as did residents across the rest of the Bay State. Right now, you're looking at the numbers of that vote in 2016, and it did pass among voters in the state, but not here in town. It was a close vote, but residents voted no by a total of 158 votes. Precincts 1 through 3 voted to not legalize it, while precincts 4 through 7 all had yes come out as the winning option. A reminder, this ballot question will appear during the annual town election coming up on April 24th, and a reminder that you can watch council meeting replays on Channel 22 or on demand at btvaccess.com. Turning to the pandemic, and trends show that things are improving, albeit slowly, here in town. If you watch the Bridgewater Now updates, we've shown you the trends here in town from the weekly health reports that the state shares on Thursday afternoons. February 11th was the last report before this taping, and the 2-week case total was at 261, down 128 from the report on the 14th of January. The positive test over a 2-week span has also declined sharply over the past month, as has the positivity percentage, which was at 6.59% on February 11th, down from 14.05% a month ago. On Thursdays, shortly after the state's weekly COVID local breakdown comes out, we do share the numbers for both Bridgewater and Rainham, and you can see those stats on our BTV Facebook page. The town held a clinic at the Bridgewater Housing Authority on February 6 and vaccinated about 60 people as part of Phase 2 of the state's distribution plan. Acting Bridgewater Fire Chief Michael McDermott organized a check-in process, and clinic staff assisted the residents with filling out the paperwork, administering the doses, and post-vaccine observation. Town Manager Michael Dutton thanked BHA Executive Director Karen Rudd, the acting fire chief, and the clinic staff. Bridgewater State University is already making plans for the next academic year. Coming up, we'll tell you what students could expect coming up in the fall. Plus, for the first time in program history, the BR football team is playing games in the spring. Brian Barrard will have more on what these games may look like.
Anthony is wanted everywhere.
Anthony's on my team. No, he's on my team.
But recently, Anthony went with his parents to find a new place to live.
It's already rented.
But housing discrimination is illegal, so Anthony's parents filed a complaint. And now they have a wonderful place to live. If you believe you've been discriminated against in housing because of your race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familial status, or disability, call HUD or visit hud.gov/fairhousing. Fair housing is your right. Use it.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Well, you may be able to call this a baby boom for the Bridgewater Fire Department, as firefighters helped deliver their 8th baby in less than 18 months. The latest delivery took place on February 10th as the department received a call of a woman in labor at the Route 24 rest stop. Ambulance 5's crew, consisting of Jonathan Hart, Sean Peters, and James Reedy, were on the call, and during the trip to Good Samaritan Medical Center in Brockton, delivered a healthy 4-pound, 4-ounce baby boy. Gavin De Leon was born, and according to the fire department, the baby, mother Rochelle Gallagher, and father Willie De Leon are all doing well. As mentioned, this is the 8th baby delivered by the department in an 18-month span, and for each child delivered in the ambulance, a stork is put up on the side of the vehicle. Firefighter Hart was actually part of another story we did in 2018 on the fire department delivering a baby in the back of an ambulance on the side of the road. Many students at BSU are working and learning remotely, but the university is planning on returning to in-person classes coming up in the fall. BSU President Fred Clark said that while they anticipate having the majority of operations in person for the fall, the final decisions will be based on public health guidance from the state and the federal government. Tuition costs and fees, which were frozen before this school year, will once again be frozen for the 2021-22 academic year. President Clark said that the university recognized that the pandemic created many hardships for both students and their families. $4.5 million in emergency funds were dispersed to support students impacted by the pandemic, with assistance in public and private funding. The town came out on January 24th for a special birthday celebration. Stella Wagner had a 100th birthday celebration brought to her South Street home, and you can see in these photos taken by the Brockton Enterprise that Stella was in a small tent with a space heater, but this was an occasion that left everybody with a warm feeling. Citations were given to Stella from the Bridgewater Town Council and by former Speaker of the House, Robert DeLeo. Family members and friends drove by holding signs and saying hi, while neighbors came by to wish a happy birthday. The senior center collected cards from people that were delivered, and according to the paper, a Zoom call was held connecting Stella to her cousins across the country. An event that takes place every September was canceled due to the pandemic, but that doesn't mean that a difference couldn't be made. The BPD 5K and 1 Mile Kids Fun Run was called off, but the group still made a donation to the 2020 beneficiary, Project PAC, which will return as a beneficiary for this year's race. Race organizer Rebecca Kaler and Bridgewater Police Chief Chris Del Monte awarded a $500 check to the nonprofit based here in Bridgewater. Project PAC is a volunteer nonprofit operating out of Bridgewater, and the group provides post-assault comfort kits to survivors of sexual assault at hospitals in Massachusetts, and they also provide pediatric packs for kids that are given to children's advocacy centers across the state. Back in November of 2019, Chief Del Monte talked about the important role that a group like Project PAC has on those going through a difficult and trying time.
We're very fortunate. Oftentimes we come across people in the worst times of their lives, and so, we have certain, I call them business things that we have to do as part of that investigation and prosecution ultimately, and sometimes those things are very difficult for victims to have to go through. They're necessary, but nonetheless they're very difficult, and so it's good for us to be able to support a program that kind of helps in small ways, I think, as Tammy has described, for people who are going through probably the worst time of their life.
For more information on Project PAC, which again is the 2021 BPD 5K and 1 Mile Fun Run primary beneficiary, visit projectpac.org. A former BSU linebacker got to take a trip of a lifetime to Tampa Bay to watch Super Bowl 55. Casey Florence, a talented football player for the Bears, now works in the ER at Signature Healthcare Brockton Hospital. Florence said that he was called up by his boss to see him, and when Casey went in, he was asked if he would have any interest in flying to the Super Bowl on the Patriots team jet. Obviously, the offer was accepted, joining about 7,500 other healthcare workers across the country as part of the NFL's way of thanking them for their work during the pandemic. The Massachusetts healthcare workers that flew on Craft Force One were treated like celebrities and received a state police escort to Logan Airport, where Governor Baker held a press conference. Regarding the experience, Florence told a BSU News reporter, quote, "In a year where COVID came through and life came to a halt, I was randomly selected to go on a jet to the Super Bowl. There are so many workers out there that are deserving. I wish I could have shared it with all of them because so many are putting in the work." And Casey recommends that when it's your turn to receive the COVID vaccine to go ahead and do it. We go from a former BSU player at the Super Bowl to BR sports in the spring, including football. The MIAA voted to move ahead with the floating Fall Sports 2 season, and with more on the modifications and what this could all look like, here's Brian Berard.
Well, thanks, John. At the MIAA Board of Directors' most recent meeting, they had a unanimous 22-0 vote to approve of the Fall 2 sports season. Well, what is the Fall 2 sports season? It's simple, really. The sports that did not get to play originally in fall will get the chance to do so in the spring with some modifications. And here are those modifications. For football, 45 players will be allowed on the game day roster with 6 coaches. And normally for football, the team bench, or the team box as they call it, would normally go from the 25 to the 25-yard line. But to allow for social distancing, the team bench will now be extended from the 10-yard line to the 10-yard line. Now for all the other sports, the season will begin, includes football, the season will begin on February 22nd and end on April 25th. And sports from other seasons with teams that could not or did not compete in their normally scheduled time, such as field hockey, soccer, volleyball, indoor track, etc., they were also unanimously approved for play during the additional season. So Bridgewater Rainham soccer did play in the fall season, but for high schools that did not have soccer or field hockey, like I said, as those other sports, they will be allowed to play in the Fall 2 sports season in the spring. Continuing on with the modifications, there will be no state champion. Leagues will probably have their league championship and end the season there. Locker rooms will remain closed unless of that sport takes place immediately after school, and there, only 10 people will be allowed in at a time for changing purposes only. Players must remain 6 feet apart even in huddles, which includes football. Spectators must practice social distancing between different household units and accept personal responsibility for public health guidelines. Translation: you will be allowed to have fans in the stands, but everyone, even if it's both your parents, must remain 6 feet apart at all times, even in the stands. Continuing on, schools must designate a coach or a site supervisor to be responsible for responding to COVID-19 concerns and supervising adherence to established COVID-19 protocols. And just like we had in the original fall season and in the winter season, all players must wear a mask or a face covering. And last but not least, spring sports were also given the go-ahead to compete this season. As you may remember from last spring, there were no spring sports at the very beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. And one final thing here in sports, we'd like to offer congratulations to 2 members of the Bridgewater Rainham girls basketball family. Now, this first congratulatory message is probably way too late, but as they say, better late than never. We'd like to congratulate Shea Boland on announcing her commitment to continue her academic and athletic career at Duke University and playing for former Boston Celtics assistant coach Kara Lawson. And finally, we'd like to congratulate head coach of the Bridgewater Rainham girls basketball team, Cheryl Seavey, on 100 career wins. Her first 12 wins came with Middleborough, and her most recent 88 wins came with Bridgewater Rainham. And that's going to do it for sports. John?
Thanks, Brian. Congrats to Shea on going to Duke, and congrats to Coach Seavey on win number 100 as her team continues their winning ways. Turning to health right now, and this has been a stressful 12 to 14 months during the pandemic, but Mary Evers has some tips on how to ease those pandemic headaches.
The pandemic has been a headache, literally, for some of us. Cleveland Clinic's Dr. Ahmed Astamalik says the daily stress we're feeling over COVID-19 can cause heads to pound.
Whether it's a stress from, employment issues, financial, schools, childcare, a lot of people have found themselves, as they're also consumed with news and blogs and reading and social media about the pandemic, they have found themselves exhibiting more headaches as well. And this has been quite common.
Stress is a common trigger for migraine and tension headaches. Dr. Stamlich says the constant barrage of conflicting information about COVID-19 can increase stress levels. So how can we reduce stress and our risk for headaches? He recommends unplugging and limiting exposure to coronavirus news to about 20 minutes each day. He also advises a walk outdoors, meditation, or yoga to relieve stress. Poor sleep quality can lead to headaches too, so Dr. Stamlich suggests turning off electronics in the evening to help calm your mind.
Don't consume too much, news or be on your phone 2 to 3, up to 2 hours before you sleep, because you really want your brain to, you want to give your brain a little bit of rest before you go to sleep, so you have a better sleep quality.
He adds that exercise is another good way to relieve the stress and therefore ward off tension-related headaches. For Bridgewater Review, I'm Mary Evers.
Thanks, Mary. It's been about a year since the pandemic grabbed a hold of our lives, and after the break, we'll tell you about how you can share your pandemic story at home 1 year later.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? Well, now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
At this time last year, the coronavirus was starting to find its way to the top of newscasts across the country and the globe. Around the middle of March, shutdowns started to happen along with mask mandates and social distancing affecting our everyday lives. Coming up during the month of March, we here at BTV, along with some familiar faces, will share stories from the past year as we all sit at home 1 year later.
I remember this time last year, I was up in Maine seeing steam trains for the first time in the snow. You know, I remember there were murmurs of COVID, but there wasn't really a huge concern about it. It was more, oh, it's over in China or Washington State. It won't affect us. And well, little did we know at the time we'd be heading down to Philadelphia for the BTV tournament down there and with basketball, and we'd come home and well, the world changed forever, really.
Well, working from home certainly has its advantages and its disadvantages. For one, I absolutely love the commute of my bedroom to my bedroom. No traffic lights, no cars to wait behind, no trains to sit in. It's been great. But for me, I can't complain. I know for a lot of other people, their world was flipped upside down.
My hope is that we remember that it's okay to slow down once in a while. It's okay to allow some time and space for ourselves and for those we love and those we care about the most. And when we are able to cherish those times together, I think it's safe to say we have grown a new appreciation for being able to do the simple things.
We'll have much more from these videos coming up next month. And through March 13th, we invite you to submit your own videos going over what life has been like over the past year. School at home, working from home, lifestyle changes. Are there any positives to come out of this pandemic? And what's the first thing you're going to do when things eventually get back to normal? Videos should be kept to 90 seconds or up to 2 minutes, and you can send a video or email answering these questions to jluck@btvaccess.com, and we'll share it throughout the month of March. Use the subject line "At Home 1 Year Later." And we certainly hope that you'll share your story over the next month or so on the updates. And a reminder that you can watch the updates and the weather updates on our social media channels. We have the usernames for those on the screen right now. And thank you for watching this edition of the Bridgewater Review. I'm John Luck.